Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. I want to give you some information today about something that all of you have and that's beginning to change. Through all of the years of the information, of the channeling, of talking about what is coming and how it will affect you, what you can do, the good news of it all, it continues. We have discussed with you that which is your innate. And there are some in the room or listening who can't really identify what the word really means. What is innate? I think it stemmed from the idea that innately you ought to be able to do certain things, which you can't. So innate has been the name given for your smart body. So the idea is that there is you, and then there is the you within you, which is smarter than you are. It's called innate, and you access it through many processes through the years. One, which is most popular, is kinesiology, called muscle testing. There are others which literally interview the innate. Now the innate, the smart body, we have told you is connected to things within you and outside you that are grand. It is not a brain function at all, and yet the brain must be involved, as it always is. But it involves the pineal, it involves the heart, the triad. The innate is in contact more than you are with your higher self and your Akashic record. That's what makes the innate so smart. You might say it's the instinct that humans don't have that animals do. That is innate. The things that innate is responsible for is grand and great, and the list would surprise you. And that is why there is so much involved today with those and processes to get in touch with innate. The thought that inside you is a smart body that knows that which you don't. Imagine having to ask your body, what are you allergic to? Shouldn't you know that? So you muscle test to find out. That is how far removed you are at this point, human being, from being able to discuss back and forth with the innate. And if you could, what would be the language that you would have from you to the smart body? Let us say you could open a door to it. What would be the language? What would it feel like? I will tell you, dear ones, it is called intuition. Let me paint a picture for you. The child is sitting there and is about to touch the stove. Isn't it interesting that the child even wants to touch the stove? The child is on the precipice of a cliff and is about to walk off until it's grabbed by the adult. An animal would never do that. An animal would know about heights and gravity, and it comes with the territory of life with an animal. An animal would not touch a hot stove, even if it didn't know it was a stove. It senses the heat, it tells them to stay away, but not the human baby. It comes in completely clueless. of some of the things that innate would give it if it was in touch with it. So the child touches the stove. There's a small burn on the finger. And inside the child's brain, there is activity that is forever. Synapse, neurons, complex growth that occurs that will etch into the child's brain, don't touch a stove. And it's going to be there all its life. That's profound if you think about it. One action of burning your finger will last forever in your lifetime. Then the child passes on, comes back, and wants to touch the stove. There is a disconnect, dear ones, in the human being of what is called instinct in the animal world. You are not receiving the things that you learned in the past life. This is one of the arguments that science would use for the non-existence of past lives. If you had a past life, you should know better, they would say. What they're not understanding at this point is that in the old energy, the human being is not fully functional. We've told you this before. You're operating at approximately 35%. It's starting to grow. But on a scale of 1 to 100, you're only a third of the way there. When it comes to wisdom and balance, intelligence, intellect, there are intellectuals who will argue, and they will say, we can think of anything. I am telling you, no, you can't. You don't know what you don't know. An intellectual will hit the ceiling with what it can think about until this planet starts to grow up. The consciousness is starting to shift and change, and one of the things you're going to look forward to, dear ones, we have talked about before, Akashic remembrance. But more than that, let's talk about how innate is going to be inherited through your Akash. I'm talking about two segments now. One is new children being born on the planet, and the other is what old souls can do on the planet right now if they get out of their box of belief that says they can't. Akashic inheritance, we've used the words before, Akashic remembrance, but you should know the one thing that starts to happen with children, with you, all of you listening, as you start to evolve on this planet, as you are, you're going to receive more intuition. In other words, that language to the innate is going to increase. The smart body is going to start releasing information. The child will not touch the stove. The child will not go near the edge of the cliff. This is important because you're going to start seeing it and you're going to wonder how they knew. I want to take you on a journey. It is the human being today represented, as we often have metaphorically, by a house. You live in this house, human being, and it's beautiful. You make it what you wish. Lovely artwork is on the walls. It's elegant. It's soft. It's where you may have an altar. It may be where you meditate. It's you. It's beautiful. It's where you sleep and where you eat. But at the center of this house, that's always been hidden from you, the core is a room. And in that room is the real human being, the smart one, the innate. And what you do is to live all around the innate. And in that center room, you might say, well, there's got to be some doors into the center of that area. There are. and you start using them. But they don't open outward. You can't pull them towards you. They have to be opened by the smart body within. And a few of them aren't doors at all. They're little holes in the wall. One of them is called kinesiology. You can find certain things out by poking a stick through the hole. And if the stick moves a certain way, you know certain things. All of that intelligence, balance, wisdom of the ages is in that room, and you're poking it with a stick. I want to tell you something. There are big doors to that room that will open, and I want to give you the labels of the doors, because the label of the door will tell you exactly why they're not opening. Let's go to the door called worry. You intellectualize things. You get a shell of worry going in the human body. Your innate will never give you intuition because it blocks it. Worry blocks intuition. Worry blocks intuition. Go to another door. It's called anxiety. It's a relative of worry. Anxiety blocks intuition. Go to another door. Fear. Fear blocks intuition. Do you want to know why the animals can be born on the field and up and running with the herd in hours? You want to know why? They don't have those things. They don't intellectualize. They don't have worry and anxiety. The fear they have is only related to survival. In other words, if an animal had any kind of smart innate, and it does for itself, it's there when it's born. And yours is missing. Because you're so smart. You learn quickly what to worry about, what to be guilty about, and all of the blockades that keep that beautiful, inside, smart body, innate, captured and trapped. Think about this. The innate is connected to the higher self, to the pineal. It knows so much. It has all of your akash. It has all of the wisdom. It's you. It's the core you. It's there. Every single human has it. And you got to poke it with a stick. I want to present the solutions to opening the doors that will let innate get back to you through intuition. Increasing your intuition tenfold so you start understanding what intuition is telling you, where you can expect it, stand by, breathe while it talks to you. Understand it's a power and not a fleeting experience that you wondered what you heard. I want you to take out your eraser and erase the words on the doors. And I want you to smile while you erase worry and anxiety and fear. And suddenly the doors have no labels at all, and you will feel them suddenly start to be opened from the inside. The innate is realizing there's no more blockade. And you will start to be at peace. It is the peaceful human being that has the greatest intuition of all. It is the human who understands who they are, so they don't have to worry, that they understand there is the Creator inside, whatever that means to you. You're part of the system. You belong here. You're not an accident. You start to understand that and feel at peace with it, even smiling with it. And here it comes. The intuition you've been asking for. Turn right, turn left, do this, do that. This is bad for you. This is good for you. This is interrupting you. Change your attitude. Change your food. Change your path. Change your family. That is the intuition that you have prayed for, that every human being wants to hear, the smart body that is connected to all that is. You came in with it. Did you ever wonder why humans don't have the instinctual power that animals do? I just gave you the answer. Too much intellect. Too many things to figure out, to worry about, to analyze. The example, we might have given it 50 times so far. When you leave the room, you'll go to your car. You'll enter the car and start the engine, and you'll drive away. But let me tell you, if this was an example of what you do with your own body, you'd get in your car and you'd have to read the manual of how the engine worked before you stepped on the gas. You want to intellectualize every single motion of the pistons involved. You want to know the pressure ratios and the fluid mechanics of the transmission. And that's what you do with your own lives. You intellectualize yourselves to the degree that innate is trapped. Innate is your best friend. Innate wants to be part of this new age. Dear ones, children are going to be born with greater intuitive power. And that is why they are going to upset the apple cart and the systems, even more than they are now. For that intuition will create wiser decisions than when they were here last. But the old soul, you can do it while you're here. How many of you will drop the box of belief that says you can't? You have to hang on to this, you have to analyze this, you have to know about this. Instead of relaxing, taking a deep breath, and letting those doors fly open. That's what's coming. There'll be different success rates. Some of you will feel it and understand that it works, and then it won't, because you keep shutting the doors. There's something new to worry about. In other words, this is something you're going to learn. It's a process of peace. Dear ones, this is magnificent information for an evolving human race. Magnificent to know that the next time around you won't have to work so hard, the intuition will be there. But also while you're here, it's available. These are solutions for you. You deserve them. It's time. No accident that you're here, and it's going to solve some of the problems you came in with. And that is the message of the day. Let the innate start to be that which you trust more than anything else. That which is connected to your heart, to your pineal, to your brain, in a balanced way that knows the one soul, you. Go from this place differently than you came, in love. And so it is.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. For those listening who are in Perth, Australia, beautiful area with a glistening ocean, clear, lovely, where you can look out upon Gaia itself and pause in the wonder and the spectacular sights and views that are here. Dear ones, there are so many human beings who are asking the same questions. This is a time of changing energy. And as the energy starts to shift, reality itself is being questioned. Humans who have lived a certain way all of their lives are starting to look at themselves and saying, what do I feel that is different? We have spoken so many times about the shift, about the new consciousness which is coming, and who it is who will make the difference on this planet. And the who it is are the ones who are listening to the words right now. There is a shift coming that is unexpected. Not frightening, just unexpected. And we've never really talked about it in this way before. So I'll just tell you, it is one thing called dimensional shift. And for you to understand any of this, I have to start at the beginning. I'm going to discuss dimensions. And you would say, well, that's not very spiritual. Really. We'll see. If you were a single dimensional person in one, you'd be on a piece of paper and you'd go in one direction. And that would be your perception, period. Couldn't do anything else. If you add 2 dimensions to it, suddenly you can go another direction on that flat piece of paper. And that's your perception. And if somebody told you about a concept of up or down, you'd laugh at them, because that's not in the purview of your consciousness. It's not anything that people do. If you're in 3 dimensions, suddenly you're on a globe instead of a piece of paper, and you have up and down, back and forth. Now you're far more free. You look backwards into the 1 and the 2, and you say, well, that was silly and stupid to think I could only go in one direction in a piece of paper. Now I know better. Now I'm in 3. If you add the 4th, it's a little more esoteric, a little more brainy. It's about time. So the 4th dimension was one that lets you then start measuring things and know about the time it takes to do things. You have the concept of time. And there you are. And there is where you have been, and that's where, and I'll say it, you've been stuck. Now you'll say, wait a minute. We were born into 4. This is what humans do. This is what is normal for humanity. We're in 4 dimensions. There are those who say, well, what's in the higher dimensions? You see, you cannot go there with your mind. Intellectual, you can't go there. You think you can. But no more than the one on the piece of paper could go into the globe. Can you go into 5, 6, 7, 8? Because you just don't even know what they are. You have no idea. How many dimensions is God in? You might ask. God, Spirit, creative source, whatever name you wish for that where you came from. God is in all dimensions. All right? Follow my logic, because I have something to tell you. Scientists, and it hasn't been lately, have known now for over 2 decades that certain things around you are multidimensional, way beyond 4. And they're head scratchers. They don't understand them. But they started to discover, as they looked at atomic structure, that lo and behold, many, many dimensions were in every single atom. The atoms in the chair that you sit in, the atoms in the body that you reside in. All atomic structure, therefore, was multidimensional. Scientists could identify 11 or 12, but that told them there were probably an infinite number of dimensional possibilities in every single atom on the planet. What are you made of? And the answer is multidimensional atoms. Where is God? God is in every single dimension in all of them. Where are you? Number 4. How can that be? What is it then that would determine dimensional awareness? And what does it mean to be in a higher dimension? It's so interesting. You have to honor the concept of linearity. Humans are linear, multidimensional things are not. The only way that I can show this to you is to give you something very simple. How long is a piece of string? You will say, well, let me get out my measuring stick, and you will measure it, and you will tell me. How long does someone live? You will have the clock, and you will measure that. The concept of linearity is that every single thing, including life, must have a beginning and an end. That is linearity. And if you sit there and say, well, isn't that reality? I will tell you, no, it is not. That is your reality in 4 dimensions. Everything has to have a beginning and an end. So you start asking questions about yourself, your soul. Isn't it interesting that this planet, as an agreement of one God, that all humans will have a soul, whatever that means, and that the soul would continue even after the human dies. So there is the acknowledgement that a soul is apart from the 4 dimensions and seemingly goes and goes and goes, and yet no one is questioning what happened before you got here. How long is your soul? How old is your soul? In a linear fashion, there has to be a beginning and an end. What about that piece of string? Let's say we take that piece of string and we tie it together. Now it's a loop. How long is the string? The answer is you cannot measure it now because it's in a loop. So does that mean it's unmeasurable? No. So how long is the loop? And the answer is infinitely long. It's forever. Now, when you start to apply that to other things, perhaps that are living, including that which your soul, it starts to then twist your mind just a little. And you say, how does that really work? And the answer is, it works well. Your soul is forever. That which is in your body is part of that multidimensional atomic structure that it always was and always will be. And yet that's not how you see it, because that's just a little too strange. Is your soul inside your body or is it outside? And how big is it? All linear questions that cannot be answered in a linear way. Here's another example you may like or not. Let's say you have a wristband of some kind. And let's say that wristband can be removed. A pair of scissors will remove it. Let's say there's an ant crawling on the band. The ant is crawling on the outside, then maybe the ant will crawl on the inside. And so when you say, where are you, ant? It'll say on the outside or on the inside. You realize the ant really can't be on the inside and the outside at the same time, now could it? Take that band and cut it with scissors. Take it and twist it 1/2 and tape it back together. And now when the ant crawls on that, it's called a Mobius strip. And the ant is on the outside and the inside, all at the same time. Dear ones, that is simply a simple Simon way of telling you that multidimensionality is something that you have a very difficulty understanding. Kryon, why are you telling this? I will tell you the next step. What is it that determines the dimension you're in? Did you ever ask that? If you walk around with full dimensionality in your atomic structure, what is it that keeps you in 4? Let me take you somewhere beautiful. In this society, one of the major prophets you would have, you call the Master of Love. The Master of Love walked this planet 2,000 years ago. And he was different. This human being was multidimensional. Wherever he walked, he would encounter those perhaps who were sick. And when he touched them, they weren't sick anymore. It's been told that the grass grew under his feet as he walked, and animals followed him. There's report after report that he had control over physics, that he could make things out of nothing and change things from one to another. In all of this beauty, a four-dimensional human being had one reaction: fear. To them it was magic, and you know what happened eventually. You might be interested in the healing part, for we have not really discussed this much, but you should hear this. Are other things that are alive on the planet also having specific dimensionality? Yes. Funny you should ask. Would a virus have a dimensional perception? After all, it's alive. And the answer is yes. It's a 3D entity. It doesn't even know about time. In that way, it's stupid. It will infect a host and live on the host, not understanding that in time it will kill itself. Along comes a multidimensional human being, infusing a higher dimensional perception onto a diseased person, and the disease cannot exist in a higher dimension, and the disease dies. There are so many human beings who have for a moment slipped out of their four-dimensional pattern. Either in euphoria or in fear, they have gone past that four-dimension, and for a few moments their whole body rang with a multidimensional which is timeless, and the disease in them shattered because it could not stay in a high-dimensional place. Dear ones, there'll come a time when humanity moves past 4 dimensions, and there will be no disease because it's a 3-dimensional entity. What was it that determined 4 or beyond? And the answer is consciousness. Consciousness is the motivator, the ruler, the changer of dimensionality in humans. I have told you repeatedly that if you start to become a compassionate human being, if you start to understand the profundity of the love of God, that it starts to move you dimensionally. It moves you, dear ones, past 4 into that place that you can't count anymore. You get off of that peg and you feel it and you know it. I've changed and I don't know why. And we told you what the results would be. You wouldn't age as much. Isn't it interesting that dimensional perception will take you off the clock? What scientist was it who told you that your 4th dimension, being time, is variable? It was Einstein. What would happen if you move into a dimensionality where there is no time, or the time is different? Your body then won't age. What human being do you know that was written about that you all have a name? Abraham. This man, he was talking to God. He was talking also to multiple angels. He was getting instructions, and he lived for 900 years. There are those who say, well, that has to be a typo in the Bible. It isn't. He lived 900 years because this man had to be multidimensional to do what he did, to be who he was. At the beginning, dear ones, it was different. So I want you to understand, what is it that changes dimensions within you? And it's your consciousness. The master of love, multidimensional, high consciousness, even controlled physics. That's what multiple that's what compassion does. That's what happens when you have compassion that you can't even measure. That's what happens when you have an individual who's so compassionate they can feel every human being around them all the time. In a very good and positive way, and not a way that would disable them. In a way where they can think about good things and it would be broadcast to others who would receive the good things. That's the master of love. That's a multidimensional human being. I'll tell you something I've never said before. Right now on this planet, there are people who can make things out of nothing with their hands, with high consciousness in very special places. Right now on this planet, there are those who can sit in midair. You call it levitation and you laugh. They can do it. Why is that possible? What are they doing? How could it be? And I will tell you, it is the perception of the consciousness that you're in. It is the change of human nature into a very beautiful, beautiful paradigm that you are barely starting to touch, called infinite love and infinite compassion. It's going to slow down your aging. It's going to make you a person that wakes up compassionate and doesn't worry about time. Understanding that there's something bigger than you ever thought, your soul. You become closer to your soul the higher you get in your perception of dimension. And in that, dear ones, the higher you get and closer to your very soul, the longer you live. The less the disease will attach itself, the more people who will look at you and say, I don't know what you have, but I want it. They will see balance and they will see love. They will see caring. This is the new human. Be aware that dimensionality, you're moving into other dimensions, and I will not call it 5 or 6, because dimensionality becomes unlinear when you pass 4. And you'll stop asking the questions, how long is a string? You'll stop asking the questions, how big is something? How big is God? If you're part of God, how big are you? You want to know how big your soul is? It's as big as God is. Did you know there are others in other universes who know you? And that would stagger your mind to know how big you are. Not how big your body is, dear ones, but how big that consciousness is that's eternal. It's in every one of you. You are magnificent. I have been coming to this planet now for 30 years. And my message, every time I arrive, don't believe anybody who tells you you're less than magnificent. Don't believe anybody who tells you you're dirty. Because that's not how God sees you. That's how humans see you. Know these things. I'm going to continue this discussion tonight. And so it is. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. The voice you hear indeed represents the energy of the creative source. That is God to some, spirit to others. Whatever you want to call it. We have discussed what the creative source is and what it is not. A benevolent source that knows you. Unbelievable to some that the human being individually would be known by the one or many, the soup, the creation that was responsible for setting the universe in motion. And the reason for this personal touch, you might say, is because in you is part of the Creator. We've told you this before. The system is complete because you are part of God. It's important
especially in this new energy, that you really cognize this and feel this. We go back again to the ancients to see what they would say. For instance, what is the first organized spiritual system on the planet thousands of years ago? What was their first intuition about who humanity was? And the answer is God inside. There are still cultures, many of them, millions of individuals on the planet who would greet you with a namaste, the acknowledgement of my God inside me greets the God in you. God inside is not a foreign concept. Do you realize the connection that is possible here? Dear ones, with the DNA working at the degree it is, the shallowness of all of it, as you progress and as you have an elegance of the divine evolvement which is at hand, the first thing that's going to happen is that connection's going to get better. And the God inside becomes the God outside and inside. But for now, I want you to really, really cognize that you've come into this planet with the Creator inside you. This is reasonable and logical for the test of the planet, for the souls that have to come here and work the issue. There has got to be creation in each of you. If that's the case, I'm going to ask the big question of the evening. When you sit to meditate, when you sit to pray, when you worship, why do you lift your hands and pray to somebody other than the God inside? Humanity is going to have to start understanding in this new energy the way to the future is not an externalness, it's an internalness. Look at what has happened and what it's become. The God inside from the ancients has become the God outside. You didn't just remove God from your bodies in this society. You made it so humans were useless and worthless and born dirty and had to grovel and crawl even to be noticed by this Creator. It's a disservice. It's a dysfunction to the entire body. When God is inside, the evolution of the human spirit will have a great catalyst, and that will be the belief of starting to activate the internal compass. Your consciousness to this point has always had a lack of self-worth. God inside is a beautiful concept and it didn't stick. And now we start asking you to create something that is going to be understood by you but not practiced by you. A concept that says you leave divine because you were born magnificent. And you were. The first breath you took, the soul that entered your body, all of the planning to get you here creates a magnificence, a beauty that is seen by Spirit and God as beautiful, and yet you don't. And now it is time to start reevaluating what's in there. The internal compass is more than just intuition. It is God inside of every single human being asking to be activated. You still are guilty, are you not, of a bias where even when you meditate, you're looking at an external source. Dear Spirit, I want this. Help me with this. Dear Spirit, I love you. What if you internalized it and called it what it is? In an older energy, we taught you that the best question you could ever ask of God is, tell me what I need to know. And now we're saying the question is the same. But now you're going to start asking God inside. Internalization of this issue means that when you sit to meditate, you honor your body first, because that is where God is, in every single piece of DNA. Hundreds of trillions of pieces. God's in all of them. There is a piece of you which is quantum. A very small part of the DNA molecule has been proven to have a quantum attribute. That is just part of what we speak of. There's more than you think in there. If God is inside, you ought to be able to sit down and meditate and start pulling forward that which you need as your internal compass, because you are calling on the source which has always been there. Not the source that sits in the sky, the source that's inside. And to make it easier for you, you might reframe the way you speak or think. And you might start with, Dear Spirit inside, tell me what it is I need to know. Activate my internal compass so that I will be able to sense the direction and not worry. Dear Spirit inside, quench the fear that I have about anything. Dear Spirit inside, show me the peace that passes all understanding, because I'm worried. Dear Spirit inside, I'm afraid. Activate that which I know is inside me so that every single cell can feel what I know is there. I am eternal. Give me the peace, the quietness, and do it now. Has it ever occurred to you that your consciousness can speak to the Creator inside your body? Look at this pathway that you've all but ignored as you search other places. We've said it before, in the scenario of today, somehow you have got to the place where you've eliminated Gaia, you've made God dysfunctional. It's a God who loves you so much you're going to burn in hell if you say the wrong thing. That's not God. Would you do it to your kids? That's not God. Inside you is the whole engine. It's all there. And it's time for you now to take it, kickstart it, and see it. Is it possible that every single cell of your body knows what I'm talking about? We've spoken about the field. We've given you two major channels on the benevolence of the field. Some have called it entrainment. There is a field of physics that wants harmony, that puts things together in a synchronous fashion. We've even called it physics with an attitude, because it's not fair, it's not neutral, it's benevolent. And in this new energy, you're going to see this manifest itself every single time you ask it to. This is the wind at your back, finally. This is the help you ask for, finally. And it comes not from the sky, but absolute normal physics. It can be measured. There's a reality in your court. that wants to help you activate the internal compass. You wake up at 3:30. I know who's here. And some of you wonder, what'll I worry about now? Because that's the pattern, isn't it? Years and years and years. You assemble the worries and the fears, you make a laundry list, and then you present them to God. How linear of you. What if you woke up at 3 and said, thank you, Spirit, internally for waking me up. Dear God inside, show me why I'm awake. Oh, I see. So you could hold my hand and tell me you love me. So I could go back to sleep and be more peaceful than I ever was. Thank you, God inside. There is no thing too great for the God inside. No matter what you're feeling, no matter what anxiousness you have, no matter what is there that you think may be even permanent, no matter what you're going through, there is a bridge to the God inside that will wipe it away, and the peaceful river of love will flow through you like it never has before. People will see it in you. People experiencing some of the things you have to experience will see it in you because you've mastered it. You discovered where God is. And the irony of it, you've just returned to the past. The ancients knew it all along. And now you're just reawakening some of the most profound knowledge of humanity. It hasn't even been hidden. It's just that you had to get to the place where you wanted to see it, to awaken it. Part of the spiritual awakening in this new energy is awareness of things that are there that you didn't see before. Of you accepting concepts that you never considered before. Of having the thought that perhaps they belong to you instead of to a guru or the channeler. That indeed all of the equipment for everything we're talking about is already in place. And it's been sleeping a long time. Sleeping. The whole idea of awakening something that's been asleep is no more just a metaphor. It is reality. But that's the way it feels. You walk out of the room with a new awareness, but perhaps a new paradigm. Stop looking outside yourself for answers, because they've always been in you. Meditate the same as you always have meditated. But what you're now doing is balancing internally that which will manifest externally in your actions, in your consciousness, in how you treat others, and how you greet the God inside of anyone who comes in your path. We have spoken over and over about compassionate action. We've talked about a change of consciousness that makes your actions different. We said this leads to healthy things. It leads to longer life. This is the evolvement of the new human being. But this is a major hurdle. Listen to the way you meditate and pray. Add the word inside every time you mention Spirit, every time you mention God. Dear God inside, dear Spirit inside. And your body is going to get used to this. It's going to own it. It's going to start understanding you have cognized the divine creator inside yourselves. It's step one to so many things that you have. that you didn't think you could do. Now I know who's in the room. I know who's listening. What have you got right now that is so sorrowful, or that creates worry and fear? What is it about humanity that lets you project the worst into something worse? And so whatever it is that you fear, then you create a bigger monster. This is the old energy paradigm that will completely and totally be wiped away by dear God inside. Darkness cannot exist when love rules. Hatred cannot be there when joy rules. Sorrow cannot exist when laughter is the king. And this is the teaching of the day, of the year, of the century. You turn the corner, dear God inside, and you join the ancients who knew it from the beginning, for it was intuitive. And then when you have time, and when you want to, I want you to walk outside to where the trees are and the dirt, not the cement, where your feet can touch the dirt. And you can say something that Gaia has wanted to hear for centuries. I want you to say, my God inside says, welcome home. You're going to start collecting energy from the source of Gaia itself, because that is your partner here. You cannot survive without it. We're in a place where there's many farmers. You ask them, they know. Farmers have a tendency to go barefoot when no others would. And you'd say, why would you do that? And they would say, because I want the dirt between my toes. Because I can feel that which is the energy of the dirt, of the divine. And it soothes my soul. It's the step after God inside. No matter where you live, you can do this. You can go where it exists and do this. And I'll tell you, you're going to receive a revelation of energy when you start including Gaia yet again. But dear ones, first is God inside. The externalization of where and how God works converted to the internalization of the reality of how God works is the key. Did you know that when you start that, your biology starts to shift? Did you know that your chemistry will start to shift? Did you know that the benevolence of the field will have a greater impact upon your health? Because suddenly you are allied with things that you never were before. If God is external, how are you ever going to internalize your health? If God is external, how are you ever going to have the peace inside? If God is external, what's it all about? Why do you exist? The logic of this should be clear, because there is no external. You are God. And collectively, your consciousness will change the planet because you are God. There's more. We'll continue at another time. Dear ones, as you sit listening, all of you, I want you to know that this message is so filled with a word that my partner can't conceive of because it doesn't exist. There's no word of how much the Creator is part of you. There's a confluence of love that flows from the other side of the veil directly to you when you cognize and understand and internalize the Creator. As long as we're outside of you, it just sits there. When you bring it in, you're going to live longer. When you bring it in, it starts to be complete. I'm Kryon. I would not tell you these things if they were not so. The new human is beginning to arrive. And so it is.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. What you see here
as you listen, as you watch, some of you, is admittedly beyond that which you would expect in the reality that you live in when you're not in this room. The very fact that you have come here collectively to watch this, to feel the energy, says that it is not necessarily something that you see all the time. Or perhaps you expect something different. Perhaps you're hanging on the words to find something special. The channelings that are at the end of these days for this kind of workshop are different. Because we talk about who's in the room. Sometimes the room is those who are listening later for you, now for me. It's more of a personal channel than that which is information which we would list as we have done before. And so we go right to the point. What happens when you leave? When the channel is over, if you're listening to this later, and you get up out of your chair and you go wherever it is that you go, what happens? Right now in this room there is an entourage, and we've talked about it before. We invite you to discern that there is one. We invite you to discern that this channeling is not my partner talking. We invite you to discern the love of God, Spirit, whatever you wish to say. This is the energy that has taught with the masters of this planet over and over. Through major cultures and minor ones, through the ancients and the indigenous, to the energy of Gaia and more. This is what is taught in this time. But what happens when you leave? The linearity of your minds and that which you call real life causes a diminishing in energy when you're not in a group. The entourage is here and it's precious, and we invite you to feel the energy of this entourage. Group, there are those here today in front of me collectively that create a certain consciousness, an attribute of what happens when Merkabahs intertwine. You're all sitting in each other's energy, and it creates a larger energy. And then you go home. Some of you will go home with the others you came from. Many will go home alone. There may be family at home, but you really go home alone. And when you get there, what do? How real is this later? No matter what we do right now, no matter what we discuss and what we talk about, I've said this before for years. This is the part where you sit and I sit, and there's a love exchange together, where some of you can actually feel the creative source and know you're okay. Some are healed in these meetings. Because collectively, because there is this attribute of togetherness, it creates an energy that allows healing. Do you really have to come to a meeting to get this? I want to say something. I want to say welcome to the new earth, where any one of you can go home and create the entourage. Any one of you. I want to tell you, I double dare you. My partner's words. to become the master that you are. The masters who walked the planet did not walk in a group. They walked alone. And what they carried was everything alone. And if you wanted to know what was going on in many of their minds as human beings, there was doubt. There was shock and surprise sometimes at what happened around them and the reactions to them. But they were self-sufficient in their love. They knew who they were. And that alone created an entourage. They walked from place to place. And the people who saw them walk there said, "This is different." Perhaps you heard the reports that even the animals knew it was different. And this is where you're going. There is an eventuality, a potential. The snowball is rolling. That every single old soul, every human being who awakens to their own greater power will start to change chemically. The DNA will start to enhance itself physically. There will be more awareness inside. And you're going to last longer. You're going to have revelations by yourself of who you are. And the biggest issues will be things like self-responsibility, awareness of situations you're in that you shouldn't necessarily be in, not in order to let yourself grow. Some of you know very well what I'm talking about. And growth also creates some uncomfortable times. But the masters had them as well. What are you going to do when you go home? Let me ask you a question. Is this meeting a crutch for you? Do you have to come to a meeting like this in order to feel the euphoria of the love of God? Or can you walk out of this place standing tall and say, I can create this in a closet? Now here's the next question. You're with others and they're not of like mind. Can you create it then? Can you walk this euphoric way with Spirit inside you, giving you right what you might feel now, and be with others who don't agree and are giving you a bad time? What's going to happen when you leave here? Today, there were questions, there were an attempt at answers, and almost uniformly, all over the planet, the questions to channelers, to teachers, to Spirit itself are all the same. And the questions have to do with what, where, how, when, and why. It's almost like every single one of you needs to understand the mechanics of everything esoteric in order to take the next step. And that's human nature. And I'm going to say this. I'll say it again. Why do you do that? Is it really, really necessary? Dear ones, I give you the example yet again. You have a machine called the human body. It's a chemical machine. It gets you from A to B, birth to death. And it operates by itself. without you thinking much about it. It's designed that way. And you work this machine during your life, and as you grow up, you learn about it. Some of you are able to control it by the health that you put into it, by the food and all of the other things that you put into it. And that's about it. That's about it. Your consciousness, as you've discovered, can alter it, can make it last longer. But it operates by itself. Do you really have to be a physician and study every piece and part to walk from A to B? And the answer is no. You get into the automobile, and it gets you from A to B. And you never ever think to yourself, I must understand the workings of the internal combustion engine in order to get to A to B. Ever, you never. Because it simply works. Now I'm going to say this yet again. The awakening process of the human being that is spiritual and filled with purpose in this age has automatic mechanics that work within you. As you're aware of shift and change, Spirit is working with you. How many of you are aware of what happens when you awaken at 3 in the morning? And there are many of you who do. And do you wake up and wring your hands and go, what do you want? Or do you have the balance to raise your hand and say, thank you, Spirit, for keeping me awake? Because I recognize I'm being worked on. There's things that need repair and help. There are things that need to be enhancing. I don't have to know what they are. Thank you. You see, it's a system that is designed to work in an old soul by itself. If you open the door, light is coming in, and you don't have to analyze the waveform of it. You don't have to measure the door. You don't have to know why. You really don't. Instead, dear human being, I want you to feel it. It's either appropriate or it's not. That's what free choice is about. Is it fearful? Does it feel good or not? Discernment is not about the minutia of how it works, how long it's going to take, and where it's going. The old soul is beginning to awaken to a bigger purpose and idea. That these things come along when they should, and the more calm you are about all of them, the better they're going to work. But they're going to be stopped if you start to analyze what, why, where, who, and when. It's just going to be stopped. Because those answers, dear ones, are not available in a linear way. You all have fallen in love. All of you. Whether it's with another human being, whether it's with a master, whether it's with an animal. And it's palatable. It's beautiful. It changes your chemistry. You look at each other, human beings, in your eyes, and you're in love. And I've said this before. Do you then stop and analyze it? Do you say, well, what's happening? I can't fall in love unless I know the minutia of it. You don't. Of course you don't. Of course you don't. You enjoy it. You fall into each other's arms and you enjoy it. And there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. God is in love with you. And there's nothing like it. And I want to invite you to fall into the arms of that which is already inside you, called the higher self, which has the creative energy of the love of God, you fall in love. And stop asking why, or when, or how. There are answers, basic answers about the shift of the planet, where you're going, what really truly is happening. It's about an ascended human race. Human by human, case by case, thinking differently on a pathway that is of a higher vibration. The result, longer life, peace on earth. We've said it before. But dear ones, this is a metaphysical, esoteric principle. You're getting from A to B. It's way too complex for you to put it in a box. Especially the box of 3D. And there are those who will leave here. And when they walk out the door, everything that was here stays here. Because you just didn't get it. That everything that is taught here is you. It's not from the one on the stage. It's available inside you. Tonight, before you go to sleep, I invite you to retire into a room that's yours only. And I want you to think upon these things. You might even raise your arm and say, Dear Spirit, if you're there, show me. And you're going to get chills. You'll feel even your eyes are closed, that perhaps a light is bright and shining on the top of your head. And the higher self is going to wink at you and say, it's about time you ask. And you can carry that light everywhere you go. By yourself. Alone. If you are fortunate enough to have a partner or family members or associate that feels the same as you do, now you're a group. It carries even more power, for where there are two or more, it's exponential. But dear ones, it starts with you. Do you dare ask the question, Dear Spirit, what is it I need to know? And you won't get a voice. You won't get handwriting on the wall. You'll get guidance, intuition, and love. This is the new human being. The one who accepts something that is complex, that affects their lives, their emotion, everything, and they don't understand it. But they don't have to. Because the design is that this, dear one, is going to get you from A to B without you knowing why. Can you do that? Discern it with your emotional heart. If you need to analyze it from a point of correctness of feeling. Don't analyze it from what you've been taught it should be, or what normally happens, or what you think happens. There is not one of you who really knows what happens, not even the one in the chair. Everything we have given you is extremely simple, because that's where you are right now. You're in a simple place with simple concepts, working a simple puzzle that is enormously complex. Just like the engine of your car. It's going to get you there if you let it. Do not fear the love of the creative source in your life. Maybe it's time you heard that. When you leave this place and you go home, what's going to happen? The ones listening to this, when you get up out of the chair and go in the other room and you're done listening to the channel of Kryon, Are you going to take this with you, or are you going to shut it off? My partner calls it throwing the switch. You live a life, you go to a building and you worship, you dress for it, you come home, you live your life. A and B. And it's time that stopped. I want you to leave this place differently than you came. The entourage is making a lot of noise right now. You can't really hear it with your ears, but you can feel it with your heart. You are known by God, by name. It's time you left and knew that. Climb into the closet and be known by God, by name, with a light shining on your head. That's the message for today. It'll be the message as long as I'm here. And so it is.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. We continue. The messages from the other side of the veil, they don't change because the channelers change. The message is the message. You could have a number of channelers in the chair passing. Between them, message to message to message. And if they're really tuned in, it's the same message. One complements the other. And the message of the evening, right now, is a plea for self-awareness. It's a plea to drop that which is the human part of you just for a moment. Today you were taught about coherence. You got to see the example and hear the testimonies of those who discovered that if they can bring coherence to their life even for a moment or two, imagining compassion, imagining love, the chemistry of the body starts to cooperate with them to the degree that it continues to generate it. For hours and hours, it continues to generate it. We're going to talk about spiritual chemistry, and there is both esoteric consciousness and body involved in something that, yes, even the pineal gland is part of. It creates a comfort in you knowing absolutely that you're loved. And yet you so seldom get there. That so much information is always going on in your mind that the whole idea of creating coherence starts to become viable, necessary, needed, so that you can stop the tapes, as we say, and start creating not a void, not a vacuum, but a clearing where you can stop everything and feel that which is your essence. And the essence that you have, every single one of you listening, everyone in the room, the real essence that you have is what you came in with. Dear ones, your chemistry and all that is esoteric in your body, your consciousness, and all designed on the other side of the veil to feel the presence of love. To know that this is temporary. To remember at some level what home is. and to create this as much as you can for yourselves. And in doing so, it creates it for others. And in doing so, the others create it for others. This is the prime directive, if you want to use the word, to find God inside. But there are so many who will say, I feel disconnected no matter what. It's really tough to stop the tapes. It's tough to even stop. Some have decided, well, you're going to do this through meditation. All well, all good, all beautiful. But then the meditation stops. There comes a time that it stops. And then you think to yourself, well, all I have done was to create spaces where I can be in touch with who I am, the other side of the veil. And that's really not what I want. I can't be in meditation 24/7. What is it that's going to allow me to not only feel this touch of the face of God in my life, but what is it that I could do that I could feel it all the time, no matter what? I can feel it while I'm cooking, while I'm cleaning, while I'm driving, while I'm at work, at the computer perhaps. Is this viable? Is it possible? Or does it have to be segmented into times when I'm aware and times when I'm not? What does that say about me? And yet, so many of you old souls are starting to ask that question, because you're starting to understand and realize there's something there. For those of you in the meeting, in the room, there's something here. And it's not a man in the chair talking. There's an enormous energy, a coherence of God, if you wish, that presses upon you right now. Some of you could feel it. And in this, what is the prime directive from the other side of the veil? Why don't you get the prime directives together? I'll tell you what they are. Love, compassion, unconditional compassion. Have you ever thought there might be a time in a meeting like this where you could do something, create a space where whatever you did would last a lifetime? Create some kind of coherence that's so powerful that it sticks with you. It sticks with you so much, it's all you want, because it feels so good. And then you realize you can create it by yourself. And then you realize self-realization. I'm a factory for spirit. Well, if you've wondered that, is it possible? Why don't we try it? And in this, a group of old souls of like mind, singular purpose and design, who understand the principles, in this we can help one another. When I say we, I'm speaking for my partner, who is also one of you in the chair. Here's the idea. You're going to open yourself up so much that the veil for a moment or two would open to whatever degree is appropriate for you and your life, and you would feel, for the first time perhaps, unconditional centering, unconditional love, as though you were an infant, helpless, in a space you hadn't been before, helpless in a way that was good, because there isn't anything you could do, no matter what flailing, that could change anything you were. And in that helplessness, you would feel the love of perhaps the greatest mother, father, the greatest parenting The greatest compassion and love, all the relatives standing around looking at you saying, this is magnificent. This is the definition of compassion. And it would be all around you. This is not being self-centered. This is self-realization that you are known by God. And the metaphor of being known by God is so powerful. Not just known, cared about, loved. What gets in the way of you and this feeling is all of the training you've had that you can't go there. Or the training that you've had that says that God is real and loves you, but you can't go there. Not allowed. Or that perhaps you're not magnificent. Or perhaps you're one who is not worthy of the glory of the Creator. So why don't we just change that? For a moment, just for a moment. Are you able to drop the tapes, ignore the sounds around you, and create a timelessness for a moment that would let you feel everything that is yours from the other side of the veil? Stop the clock. Nothing is important. Just for a minute. Nothing is more important than the connection that you are built to have, that this shift is starting to move toward. Fast track this connection by this moment. We're going to turn it into a little meditation just right now, just for a moment. And if you're ready, let it begin right now. I would like to tell you something. You are known. Every hair on your head or anywhere. You have hair everywhere. You have hair. Known by God, counted by God. Every chemical, everything in your body. Known by God. Shaking hands with that which is the Creator, whether you know it in your consciousness or not. That is how important you are. This creative source that you are looking at right now, face to face, eyeball to eyeball, is able to be with each one of you 24/7 in such a beautiful, personal, multidimensional way. There's no sharing, or you have to have one human at a time. It's all together. All the hearts, all the compassion of the entire galaxy, the universe, right now, pouring through the veil to tell you one thing, that is, we know you. Your soul glows on this planet so much that we surround you with our love. You can never be alone. You have an entourage of your own that can take your hand at any moment, whether you know it or not, whether you let them or not. They're always ready, always ready, always ready. The compassion of the Creator is in your lap. Let it shine with you. Drop the pretenses, drop the blah blah, drop all the things that keep you from shaking this hand that has always been outstretched to you, because you are loved. You cannot conceive it. It is so beautiful, so precious, so bright, so pure, so pure. The consciousness of God is nothing like a human being. It is spectacular in its purity and its silence. This is who you are. Just for a moment. This is the real you. You're part of all of it. All of it. You're your own prophet. You're your own ancestor. So great is this. Come back slowly from this knowledge, this experience. And some of you will never be the same. Because it's a revelation. Nobody told you. It's a revelation that you can dig into the purity. And it becomes you. You've heard the expression, "Be still my heart," so many times. "Be still my soul," so many times. This is the expression that so many on this planet use. That would say, in the stillness of all things in your body, there is a revelation of God. Dear ones, you have the Creator inside you. It's built in. What we just did was not something that is unusual for you to get to a place where the Creator can touch you, because the Creator is inside you. What you've just done was to clear the fence so that you could touch each other. It's built in. You can do this as many times as you want to. It's an effort for some and easy for others, but it's a measure of the coherence you have with the creative source. The more you increase this coherence, the more this planet becomes lighter in so many ways. The end result, dear ones, is not peace on earth, because peace on earth will come with this light and coherence automatically. The goal for the planet is what you do after you have peace on earth. For that's when all of the inventions can be brought to you, when stillness is something that you could have simply by going there. When the buttons are gone that would be pressed in you, that would create fear and anger, distress and drama. This is not a fantasy. Some have felt the reality of this. There are still cultures on this planet who are embedded in this so grandly that they can control even their heart rate. They know who they are. Dear ones, I close with this. Known by God, not just 3 words. This is actionable. That is a word that means it's real. You can act on it. It is something that exists. It's not that which is so esoteric, it's only in this room. It is something you carry from this place, and you live it. You live it. And in that, you can raise your hand to the sky if you wish and say, thank you, thank you, thank you, that I just had the greatest revelation of who I am. For I, you might say, am a part of the creative source of all things. And you be right. You be right. That is the beauty of the soul that all of you have, that is forever, that always exists, even after the body quits. You are you, part of that which is everything. That is the beauty of the message that we bring and will continue to bring. And so it is.
Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. We pause for a moment. My partner steps aside, but he is still here. And this is a very difficult concept for anyone. When he speaks of it, it's difficult. Channeling creates an interesting energy.
It often affects things around you. He has a hard time explaining that. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about linear things. I want to talk about, again, assumptions. And it's all about you. Now, this is the end of a workshop. And I know that. I know who is in here, in the building. I know the energies that we are creating together right now. Some of them are strong enough to make batteries fail and alarms to go off. This is what happens with multidimensional things that are outside of linearity. There are energies that you develop that are unexplainable. Now, this goes two ways. It really does. And I really want to speak to you clearly about some things that are assumed to be linear, and they're not. There is teaching that has been given this weekend about so many pieces and parts of the new energy, both of the physical body, of the mind, the consciousness, the planet. And it can be overwhelming, especially for the light worker who is trying to linearize it all. One of the most difficult things for you to conceive of is that relationship that has been talked about all weekend. You have so many names for it. There's the higher self, there's the pineal, there's the innate, there's high consciousness, there's love. And the overwhelming thing about all of these is, as you listen to them, as you have teaching about them, you start to put them in boxes. Let me give you an example. Innate, the smart body for you, is connected to the pineal, and the pineal is connected to the higher self. It involves your intuition, and we have said through affirmations in this new energy are probably one of the strongest things that you can use for self-healing. For situational things, all manner of things. But then you've confused it with God. I want you to get out of the boxes for a moment and listen. Your cellular structure is not working efficiently, and it needs help. Your cellular structure is not God. Now, God is inside you, but the cellular structure is something that is now increasing in efficiency, in communication. Your innate is starting to marry more with your consciousness. I want you to put that aside for a moment. That is one issue. But the love of God, your purpose, your consciousness, your relationship with Spirit, that's a whole nother issue. Don't put them together. There are so many things that you want to put in a little box and then combine it with another little box in order to put another box on top of that box and say, what comes first, what comes second, what comes third? If you do this, what happens over here? And that leads to something. It leads to a life where you are constantly asking the question, am I doing it right? Is it in the right order? Why isn't this happening now? I've done this, but this happened. Those are great questions for a linear creature, but not one who is an old soul on the planet, who is part of everything. Yes. Dear ones, there are processes and procedures that you are learning to work with your innate. And that's what this was about today. You've taken pictures of them, you've written them down, and you walk out with some information that is so valuable about you and your cellular structure and your biology at this time in humanity. But dear ones, don't confuse it with the love of God. Listen to me. There are many here right now asking the question about what's next, why is this happening? And you're looking to the innate for the answer. Innate talks to your cellular structure. If you've got a health problem, you'll be talking to innate. But you're also going to talk to the consciousness that's connected to spirit. Between the two of you, the innate, the consciousness, and that part of you which is the love of God, all of you together are going to create solutions. Not just one. But there's one big one, an assumption I want to talk about right now. It's difficult to even describe where I'm going with this. So many in the room, so many listening, are trying to find out how to get past something. How to get over the wall, perhaps, of fear. Or how to broach something that hasn't happened and you know it's there, you can feel it's there. And you know how to do it. You come to a place like this, you learn about innate, you learn about the balanced breathing, you learn about all the things that a light worker in this energy is starting to realize that it's a whole body experience. But don't confuse that with the love of God. There are certain hurdles that you're trying to get through. And dear ones, innate cannot help you with that. Innate wants to heal your body. Innate wants to pull on Akashic things to heal your body. Innate wants to work with that which has happened before, even in this lifetime, in order to change cellular structure. You need it. You need to live longer. But don't confuse that with the hurdle of fear, especially the hurdle of enlightenment. I have got some information for you that is so difficult to communicate. So I want you to feel it. It's one of the only times that I have been in front of those sitting in the chairs where I've said, your language is not sufficient. I want to communicate something to you, a way to get through the hurdle, a way to walk through this, to get to that place that is next. So many of you are frustrated. I can see it in you, in the Merkaba. There is a frustration. You're just not quite sure of what it is. It goes beyond language. And so I'm going to give it to you, both with language and with what I will call the third language. Now, the third language is not a language at all. It's a catalytic energy of communication that Spirit uses with you, that goes into the very consciousness of those who are ready to receive it. It's the big aha. A scientist sits with a puzzle. He knows that it's doable. He's got something to figure out. He's looking for something that's impossible. He's looking for a discovery. He knows it's coming. And he looks at it and he works the puzzle. He tries this and that and this and that. He calls in his colleagues. They work on it together. This and that and this and that. Nowhere is there a solution. Every single time he tries something, it fails. It's interesting, and if you talk to scientists, they will tell you that this is the way of it. They can feel it. that a solution in physics or science or biology is right there in front of them, and no matter what they do, it doesn't show itself. And they look at the logic of it, and they build the little boxes, and they work all of the puzzles. They do the computations. They work the puzzle. Nothing. Nothing. And they retire for the night. The scientist he's tired of computing, turns on the television and watches a movie. Disengages his mind completely with the puzzle, ready to attack it tomorrow. Watching a movie about nothing when suddenly the solution comes. Something is so obvious, of course. Slaps his head, gets out of bed, goes to write it down, does the computations, voila, the solution. What just happened? What happened was the scientist disengaged logic and accidentally, without even thinking about it, suspended every part of the problem that was in his psyche, dropped all of the barriers because it was no longer time to do the work. And so the barriers are gone. The disengagement of science was complete. The movie was being watched, and in comes the solution. That was always there, waiting for the barrier to come down of logic. You don't know what you don't know. How can you possibly work this puzzle with things that you don't know about? Dear ones, you are overworking the puzzle. I want you to just suspend your logic for a moment and follow me. The solution to what many of you are asking for lays there right now with your name on it, waiting for you to stop thinking about it. I want you to erase the whole idea of how do I? Because the very English synapse is wrong. How do I is not going to work with a multidimensional human being who is an old soul who is learning things they don't know yet. You're learning things you don't know yet. So how can you possibly apply your three-dimensional logic to a puzzle that is beyond the logic? It's only when you suspend it and you give up and you say to Spirit, and Nate is over here, I'm working the puzzle, but what about the really big one? What about the fear of moving forward, of going to the next place, of overcoming this or this or this or this, and there's many thises as there are people. It's the spiritual that we're talking about now. It's the relationship and the communication we're talking about to God right now. It's about your life and your lessons and what you're here for. Don't talk to Nate right now. I want you to think about this, but not too hard. I want you to imagine, just for a moment, that the barrier that you know is there, keeping you from things, is slowly dissolving through no effort of yours at all, other than the intent to go beyond it. That there is some kind of a mechanism that you don't understand, that you don't know about, that is so powerful, that remembers and recognizes when you suspend belief, drop your logic, and simply allow it to happen. Like the scientist who had it, He had it figured out. There was a solution, but no amount of working the puzzle worked. I want you to combine this intent you have with the idea and the belief that there is a greater power of creation who knows your name, knows who you are, and is ready to help you right now. That greater power, and that is the creative source, has been with you all along. But the barrier that has kept you disconnected from it is the very thing you thought would solve it. Your logic, your survival, your smarts as a human being. Can you let it go? Can you just let it go? If you can see that barrier dissolving just for a moment, for no other reason than the fact that you're sitting here and allowing it, I want you to also vision the second thing. And that is the connection of your hand to Spirit coming out of that dissolving barrier and taking the hand of God. And you don't know why, and you can't figure it out. You don't know what's happened, and no idea. But suddenly, it's okay. Fear is a product of intellectualism. Did you hear that? It comes from the brain. The computer that says, don't touch the stove because you'll get burned. That's where it comes from. It doesn't come from God. It doesn't come from that which is your intuition. Right out of your brain. And it requires that the human being be able to disengage the very thing that has been their survival forever. You don't have to disengage and walk around without it just for the moment. You got to learn to balance the survival instrument with the heart, with the pineal, letting the trilogy work within you. There are people in this room who have been waiting to hear this who will heal because of it. Did you hear me? Aren't you tired of trying? Could it be this simple? And the answer is it's not simple to drop survival. But it's an elegant solution. When you figure it out and you slap your head and go, wow, all I had to do was let go. I'm talking to those right now who are here sitting in the seats, and there's thousands more who are listening and will listen to the message of who's sitting in the seats. This isn't for the masses. This is for you. I know who you are. Spirit knows who you are. There's a celebration, the fact that you came here to listen to this message, and some will get it and some won't. What you came for today can happen right now if you let go. Some of you will walk out of here saying, well, that was a nice message, but I'm not sure I can let go, and not aware that you did. Because it starts to change right away. And you'll feel it tonight before you go to sleep. I dare you. Put your hand on your heart tonight before you go to sleep and say, thank you, Spirit. I got what I came for. And if somebody overhears that and say, well, how did that work? You can say, I have no idea. But it works. Don't try to figure out how things happen, or they won't happen. Not in this energy. Not where this is going. You're going to have to cross that missing bridge, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, it was a channel given in 1994, 95, again in 96. Some of the first things I told you was to trust the unknown and know that you're in the hands of God. And now it comes full circle. That's the message. There's so many of you needed to hear that right now, tonight. You don't have to be stuck where you think you're stuck. Not when you let it dissolve like this. Not when you trust the unseen and never ask, how do I do this? You can raise your hand and say, thank you, Spirit, for doing what I need in my life now. I don't know why I ever doubted it. And you walk away, and some of you will say, it's an incompleteness if I don't know how it was accomplished. The more you do this, the less incomplete you will feel. And there'll come a time when you will count on the unseen that makes no sense at all, where you'll be able to drop your survival instrument and ignore your brain, who tells you that this is foolishness, and realize that the brain is in 3D, but you are not. A new integration is upon you. The unseen things come into your life and begin working. And you haven't got a clue why, except that you know you're connected. That's all you have to know. And somebody asks, how did you do this? And you can say, I'm connected. That's how I did it. And you know what the others will say? They won't say, well, I'm not going to do it because I don't understand it. They're going to look at you and say, you did it. And they're going to say, show me how to get connected. And that's what the old soul is here to do. It's a cryptic message, isn't it? And some of you got it through the third language and feel it and know it and are accepting it and are having a change right now. And some of you are going to get it later. I guarantee it. Because we got some stubborn ones here. Not for long. You may have to listen again. And the same language of the three will be available for you then. This is the beauty of working with those who are old souls. There is an accumulation of wisdom, stubborn as it may be, that starts to then make sense with time. I am Kryon giving you the truth this day about an evolving human spirit who is starting to become more multidimensional than ever. It is the beginning. Color is coming to this planet, and the old souls have the crayons. That's no relation to Kryon. But it sounds a lot like it, doesn't it? And so it is.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. I want you to feel everything that's possible in 3 dimensions to feel. These particular channels on these workshop days are different. I speak to seekers, those who would stay and ask the questions that you ask. If you take a look around you, you'll see all ages. The awakening process is not for young people, is not for seniors. It's for humans. And it's happening. If I could take you on a journey to show you who you were, I would. But many of you are starting to discover it. It's an expansive journey when you really truly understand what has happened and who you are. My partner is wondering what I'm going to say. He often gets a snapshot because while he is tethered in another place, he is one with me. He feels the message come in as it does. He remembers what has been said. Many don't. But right now, he's not seeing the message. And the reason is this particular message is not one that's been given totally verbally. I want you to see who you are. I want you to feel it right now. Dear human being, you have been through so much. I would like to address you right now. I'm addressing the higher self of every single one of you, the one who knows me from where I am coming from, because the higher self is part of the same central source as I am, as you are. The oneness of God right now is in your lap. I address the higher self because I want to address the akash of every single one of you. The humanism that you have been is not this lifetime. All of you in the room have been both genders, and you know it. All of you in the room have had the experiences of going through dark energy, slogging through that which is so amazingly dark. Coming through the ages, that's who you are. And trying to figure out your relationship to a higher source. I want you to look at this for a moment. This is who you are. Forget who you are in the mirror. Forget it. That's not who I see. That's not who God sees. The peace of God that is in you is all part of everything. The human that you are is separated from this temporarily. But not right this second. I want you to feel this. I want you to feel the magnificence that you are. I want you to feel the sacredness that you are. And maybe this is the time for an overwhelming truth and beauty to settle in you so much that you'll never forget this feeling of who you are. So that no matter what happens in your life, there won't be frustration because you know who you are. You'll understand how small your fears are and your anxieties are compared to what you've been. I want you to stay in this place. I know that your intellect cannot possibly understand and see all the lifetimes, but you can feel it. Emotionally, you're free to feel this. Your intellect cannot identify what you're feeling, but you can still feel it. I want you to feel free. I want you to feel free of the petty worries that you have, or the realizations that you've gone through, the issues that you deal with, just for a moment. Because if you can feel this with me, as this entourage gathers around you right now and presses upon you truth, you can feel it with me. You're going to be able to carry this for the rest of your life. We do not blame humanity for what it has done with God. We cannot. You seek your own level, your consciousness,
as a human race, has decided where it would go. We cannot be in judgment of free choice. But where it has gone has been to view everything by only what it has experienced. Therefore, God is far beyond anything it has experienced. And we say yet again that all of your models of divinity are as high as you can think based upon a human paradigm. Everything you have, which is the highest of the high, is only as high as you can think a human can go. You really don't know God when you can feel us. Do you understand the difference? If you can't figure us out, and you can't really figure out divinity in you, you still can feel it. Let me ask you, human, have you figured out love yet? Have you itemized it and categorized it and boxed it yet? Can you take love and apply physics to it? No. You can't because you can't. It is not figure-outable with 3D. It's the same with God. It's the same with the seed of creation in you. I want to suspend a moment in time right now where you become expanded and larger than you are. Everything you've been told about God in your life is probably only a small portion of who you really are. This is changing. You look at who God is to the earth, and it's still in a box, is it not? An energy in a box. And you still wonder, how long can humanity sequester the divine to a box? You report to the box and they tell you all kinds of things and rules. And you leave the box. And you say, well, God is there. I'm not worthy. You're born dirty. All of the things that are so much human thinking. An evolved idea is starting to occur to the earth about divine things. You're going to start seeing it in the young people because they're going to refuse to report to the box, anywhere. No matter what the culture is, even the one in Israel, they're going to start questioning the box. They're going to question the rules, and they're going to start asking to feel who God is. And old soul, you got the upper hand right now because you can feel it. In the feeling is the teaching. Don't use your intellect to figure out this message right now. Just be with me. Be with me. The feeling is the teaching. Because as you feel God inside and you know you are so expanded and who you really are on this planet and what your soul has been through, you are master shamanic teachers to all around you. The compassion you can have from this is of the masters. Stay with me. Don't think about anything else right now. Just stay with me. Is it possible that you're really that big? And the answer is yes. What is this all about if not? If not that, then what? What do you feel? If not that, then what? Stay with me. Don't use your intellect. The emotions of compassion and the feelings that you are able to feel right now of the love that is for you,
that tells you you're not broken, you're just right, you're ready to go. This is perfect. If you can feel that right now with me, when you leave this room, it's still there. Do you understand this? This is the implant. You're implanting yourself with the truth of who you are. It's different now than it was even 20 years ago. For in this energy, you are going to receive so much more truth about the expanded soul that you are, that your life is so much bigger than you think. Your life is the payoff of all the lives that you've been before. And that which used to be and who you used to be is starting to, I would say, infuse itself into you. It's the wisdom of all the past lives. I talk to those who are from many cultures. I know who you are. I know your name in light. I know why you're here. This peace of God that speaks to you now is allied to the one inside you. Every problem you think you have and that you do have, I've been part of it. I've been there when it took place. I've been there since you were born. We all have. The entourage has. God has. Because there's a love for you that is beyond measure. And that's what I want you to feel. You are one of us. Family, one of us. I want you to start understanding there's no separation between the Almighty God and you. And how can I put this even more clear than it is? That's what I want you to feel. There is an expansion going on, and some of you are fighting it. Some of you are fighting it. Some of you are accepting it. You're actually saying, bring it on. And others of you are so surprised by it, you think something's wrong with you. I want to tell you, it is time to wake up. And you're doing it. You wouldn't be in this group otherwise. I am in front of seekers. And I want to tell you that what you are seeking is here in you. You are far larger than you think. There's nothing casual about this moment. It's just profound. If you can allow the feeling in you and the emotion to swell up in whatever way, in maturity, in purpose, in peace, when you leave this place, I want you to have something you didn't expect. I want you to feel good about everything. And you'll say, well, how can I feel good about everything? You can if you understand the big picture. Why not? It's inside you. You have reached a point, old soul, that is the payoff. You got past the big one. That place in history that was the marker that said if you pass this, you're on your way. Your life is much bigger than you think. Now, I don't want to push the envelope of perception. But some of you, I want you to think even beyond today. Your Akashic record goes into the future. A record to you can only be past. A record to us is a record of everything, including the future. All of you have lifetimes in front of you, and if I could show them to you, there would be such joy in this room, a release in this room, an overwhelming cry in peace in this room, because you'd see what's coming. You'd see a development in you. You would see the things you have always asked for in all the lifetimes you've ever had embodied in where you're going. That's the potential of the old soul. We see that. And everything you're going through right now is so small compared to that. This planet is headed for places you cannot even fathom in maturity. I said it before. Peace on earth is a given. This is where you're headed. This is what humanity is wanting, if you noticed. For the first time in history, in recorded history, overwhelmingly, you don't want war. Overwhelming. You don't want to separate and fight. Overwhelmingly. You want to find answers. Young people will rise up and demand it if you don't give it to them. There's a phrase by a very wise person that said, what if you gave a war and nobody came? And that is what you are going to be faced with. Old versus new energy is already erupting on this planet. You've got a war of attitude, dark and light. Evolvement in thinking and consciousness against old energy. That's what you got. You're in the forefront of that. And in this room, you seekers, I will tell you, the seeking has paid off because it brings you here to hear truth. Now, what you do with it next is still free choice. I want you to feel it. Don't listen to me. Validate it right now. Number one, is it a mistake you're here? No. Number two, are you really as big as we're saying? Yes. I want you to feel it. I want your answers. I'm giving you mine. Number three, is there a plan? Yes. Number four, are you part of it? Yes. Number five, is the overwhelming plan filled with benevolence, love, and purpose and joy? Yes. You are building a new planet. Can't you feel it? Intuitively, I want you to feel your next life, young person. It's coming. You'll have plenty of time on the planet. But it's not over. And you'll be back, and you'll be back, and you'll be back. Because you're building a future that no one ever thought. No anthropologist is going to believe this. No sociologist will ever believe it. And those listening to this channel who are invested in the dark side and doom are going to be so critical of what I'm saying. So I have a message for them. When the doom doesn't happen, what are you going to do? Invent new doom? Or maybe I'm right. You're the forerunners of an ascended planet. And when that happens, in the far future, far, far future, I want to come back and ask you how you liked it. As you seed another planet. Because you will be the ones who carry the seeds. You're bigger than you think. I want you to take this with you. And don't let anybody beat it up. Don't let one human being point at you and say you got it wrong. I want you to feel it. And in the feeling, you'll know. I am Kryon in love with humanity. And so it is.